And I do want to just ask for students that are joining, if you wouldn't mind adding your, just putting your name and your major and your graduation year in the chat box. That just helps me understand the audience that I'm speaking to. So I'll put that in there as well.
And Sarah, I think we are all on the same place. So
perfect.
I think we can go. And I'll just, I know we've got several folks with us, so we're super glad y'all are here. A couple of us are here from the Career Development Center. I'm Susan McCracken. And Leah, I'm so glad to see you again. I'm Susan McCracken. I am the director of the Career Development Center, and Laura Pell is our career coach for the College of Arts and Sciences, and Deanne Smith is our assistant director for employer relations or employer development. Oh my God, I can't even think. Employer development and relations. And we have a special guest today, Sarah Bruet, who is with us from FAST Enterprises. And FAST has been 2 years really active on campus. Is that right, Sarah?
Years.
And you all have been one of our really treasured and valued career partners on campus. In fact, Saturday, I was finally out at the farmer's market here in Boone and feeling a little normal, and saw Dr. James Wilkes, who is a faculty member in the computer science department. And he was just talking about how fortunate our students are for the opportunities that they have had with you. And so we're super glad that you could join us today. And I'm going to turn it over to you and mute myself.
All right. Well, thank you so much. It has been just a great 2 years of our relationship with App State, and I'm super excited to help out with this as well. And hope that this information today will be of use to students who are just wondering how to navigate with what's going on, finding a job. So I am going to share my screen, my presentation with you now, and then we'll go through this presentation. And what I ask is that if you have questions, in the meantime, just put them in the chat box. Just put them in there, and then after this is done, I will go back and just answer any of the questions that are in the chat box. But since we do have a little bit more limited time, I found it is just easier if I can address them all at once versus through the middle of the presentation. So do not hesitate to add those into the chat box. But I'm going to figure out which screen I need to share here. All right. All right, can you guys see this? Hopefully. Oops.
Yes, it's working, Sarah.
All right. For some reason, my notes went away. All right. So as I said, I wanted to talk about the virtual job search and talk about how you can really stand out right now while you have to stay in. And I think with so much changing and the fact that we're used to doing this in person, this is a whole new world for us as employers, for you as students as well, for career services too. So it's completely different for everybody. And we wanted to let people know like what things have changed, what things have stayed the same, and just some general tips for making it through this. Let's see. So what hasn't changed? I think with everything that's going on, and you've probably heard this a lot from people, is one thing to do is focus on what you can control. Focus on what is staying the same and how you can take that and really just keep the consistency, and with that consistency, adjust to those changes. So one thing that hasn't changed is you will still graduate, or you will still finish the semester and go into the next year in the fall. That hasn't changed. It might look a little different. Obviously, I moved to online classes. You don't get the end of the year fun celebrations with friends. If you're graduating, you don't get to walk across the stage, but it's still happening. You're still going to finish the semester. Another thing that hasn't changed is that companies are still hiring, and that is something to keep in mind, that you have to prepare for that. It might not be all companies. It is going to be industry specific, but companies are going to be hiring right now. Fast is absolutely one of those companies. And Fast, we do software development or I should say implementation and configuration for government agencies. And you might not think that certain government areas are essential right now, but with the work that we do with government, it's tax processing, unemployment insurance and benefits, and motor vehicle and driver services. People still need to drive, they still need to get their vehicles registered. Taxes, this happens to be April just passed with tax time, they still need to file taxes. All of that still needs to run as business. The third system, our Fast UI, is unemployment insurance and benefits. That is a system that is probably the most relevant right now. That is for unemployment insurance. And as we all know, unemployment insurance filings have gone through the roof. And for many of our clients, they're set up, they're ready to go because they have an updated system. And we're getting actually a lot of new work from either existing clients or new clients for pandemic unemployment assistance. And that means that we are working around the clock to try to get these systems up to date so they can process all of the claims that they're coming in, and they can process the changes that have been happening with unemployment insurance as well. We were also in the middle of rollouts for many of our clients, and I think it was 6 clients between March 25th and April something or May something. So really only about a month time frame that we still rolled out a phase of our software system. So we've been putting every bit of energy that we have. Most of those clients were working remotely as well, so still completing that. And we need people to do this. We need people to still take on this work. We did stop hiring, or not hiring, but having people start in April and May, but fingers crossed, hope that we can get our June people started again. And we're continuing to do the recruitment process. You can see our map here. One of the reasons that we had to postpone on people starting is we have clients all over the US and internationally, and our employees are relocating every 2 to 3 years on average. So it really was not safe or feasible for us to have people starting in April or May because they are having to relocate, and just not the best time for that. So we do look for candidates who are open to that relocation, and then the roles that we have are really a mix between being a consultant and being a developer working with our clients. But Fast, not a lot of people know who we are, and we work within government, and so it might not seem obvious to why we're still hiring or why we're still picking up new work, but just an example of keeping your options open and understanding that that there are many companies that are still hiring. Another thing is that you will still have to go through the interview process. That's not going to change. Nobody's going to hire you sight unseen. So being prepared for what that might look like, it's going to change most likely. They're probably going to be video, but you will still have to go through that process. And then people are networking. So many people are home and they're not getting to interact with people, whether they live alone or it's just them and one other person, and they're really looking for a way to connect with other people. So networking is happening even more so at a higher rate than before all of this. And then what has changed? And oddly enough, I know I think have one more bullet on this slide than the what hasn't changed slide, but we did have a hard time coming up with things to add to here of what has changed. One thing obviously is most processes are virtual. Any interview that was going to be in person is now going to be video, and we're going to talk about some more tips about video and virtual interviews later on. Another change is the market is probably going to be more competitive. While I talked about there are companies that are still hiring, there are industries that are still hiring. There's some industries that are doing better now than they were before, others that are just continuing as business as normal, others that are taking a big hit. But overall, it is going to be a more competitive market. So you do need to really make sure that you are dotting all your I's, crossing all your T's, getting all of your resumes, all of that prep ready to go beforehand so you are the most marketable candidate. How you work may change. A lot of companies, as they start to bring people on, it might be working remotely. It might be working a couple days in the office and then a couple days at home. The office space, what that looks like. might be very different. You might not get to onboard like you thought you would. You might not get to meet the people or see the office space before you start a job. So all of that's going to be very different. Recruiting events. At FAST, we did almost every single event on campus and in person, and this is a huge change. I was telling Susan before this is not normal for us either. We really like to meet people face to face. We like to have events and go out to dinner and talk and have those conversations, but we can't do that now. And we don't know what the fall is going to look like, and if that's even a possibility. Even if schools are open, are we going to travel? Are we going to be going to these campuses? We don't know what that looks like. So be very open to the fact that you might need to be a little bit more proactive. So students who are on this webinar, this presentation right now, that's awesome. I think you are doing what you need to do to stand out as a candidate and just taking advantage of those opportunities. And then of course there is just that level of uncertainty. Like I said, we don't know what is going to happen in the future. We don't know if industries are going to be permanently impacted by this. We don't know how long this will happen. We just don't know. And that's definitely changed, because I think all of us are used to preparing and planning and knowing exactly what we need to do and what steps to take. And we just don't have that luxury right now. So being willing to adapt a little bit more will help us out with this. So next I wanted to talk and move into the job search and how that has changed now that it is really just virtual. So a couple things is we are switching to networking online. There are no more networking events. There are no more career fairs. It's really moved to all online. And a couple things that you can do are really to utilize your current contacts. Start with what you know, start with who you know. And this can be alumni that maybe graduated a couple years before you, professional associations, if you have any business groups or clubs that you're in, your friends, your family, past coworkers, professors, a neighbor you grew up with. Start to talk to these people, start to connect with them, start asking questions that you need to ask to figure out what you need to do to prepare for your job. With online networking, it's easy, I think, to just sit back and just say, oh, well, I don't really know what to do and I'll just wait. But with online networking, you really have to put yourself out there. It can be really intimidating. And just the thought of reaching out to somebody and asking about career opportunities is just daunting. But you need to do that to take the next step. If you don't take steps in your job process to get a job, you will never get a job. We are all looking for ways. I mentioned earlier, networking is happening more because we are looking for ways to connect. So take advantage of that. It just might be a virtual chat instead of actually meeting for coffee. And then when you are thinking about your networking and when you find these people to network with, how do you reach out to them? What do you say? You have to make your message unique. I think I talk about this when I tell people to send thank you notes. It should not be a thank you note or a cover letter that you're just copying and pasting and sending to everybody. You need to make it unique. It should not just be copy and pasted. It also doesn't need to be really lengthy. That people are going to stop reading it if it's really lengthy. It has to just be to the point, and direct. Who are they? If you're not 100% sure that your relationship is there, if this is a very new contact, a new network, then make sure you look at their profile and figure out, why are you specifically reaching out to them? Did they go to the same school? Do they have the same background? Did you guys grow up in the same area? Do you know the same person? Figure out why you are contacting that person and put that in that message. Find that connection. Let them know that you're interested. You also, with networking, I think there's an opportunity to come from this. So many people think networking is, give me a job, I want a job, what can I do to get a job? And that is not networking. You might not utilize this network for years to come. As long as you are making the connections and just having a conversation, that's networking. But if you go into it thinking, oh, I'm gonna connect with this person and I expect a job within 6 months, you're going to ruin that new connection. You're going to ruin that network. I think it's kind of rule of thumb is you really shouldn't ask anything of a new contact within the first year of this new relationship. Otherwise, you risk ruining that relationship completely. And then this is also something that they're taking time out of their life to help you with. So make yourself available to them. Be adjustable to their schedule. If they want to do, maybe you're super excited to do a video chat and that just doesn't work with them. They have kids and they just want to have a call and maybe they're going to walk and talk to you on the phone at the same time. Accept that and let them know that you can be flexible with whatever they'd like to do. And then you've got this call or this video chat set up. What do you say? How do you start this conversation? Since this is just networking and you're getting to know them, start with small talk. Ask about them. Hear how they've been doing. With what's going on right now. How have you been staying busy? What's been going on? How has this been going for you? Find something that you guys have in common, because a lot of times once you find that commonality, the conversation will just pick up and you'll just start talking. You should have a list of questions. Ideally, you won't even need that list of questions. These will be things that you just naturally come to and talk about. But if there are slower times or if you have very specific things and information that you're hoping to get, you should have that list of questions ready to go. And please don't, pull it out and start just reading off of it. You've got it, just in case, but still it's really just to reference later. And if anything, on video and phone calls, you can have that more so than you would in just an in-person networking. And then focus on listening. You are there to hear from them. And it is not a time for you just to share your whole life story. It is a time for them to answer your questions, to share their experiences. So you do need to listen. At the same time, it can't just be this one-sided conversation where you're not contributing anything. So figure out what that balance of you listening, which should be more than you talking, but still adding to the conversation. And then interviewing, I'm going to give some tips about just virtual interviewing. So first thing is treat it exactly like you would an in-person interview. You're going to dress professionally, head to toe. You're going to practice. You're going to do your research. You're going to prepare your questions. You're really not going to do anything too different from that. Another tip is having a designated interview spot. You will need to, you won't need to, but I recommend moving to a whole different spot. If you normally do homework and work and are on your computer in one room of your apartment or your home, when you have an interview set up, move to a completely different space. Treat it as though you have an in-person interview and you're interviewing in a whole different space than what you're normally used to. You will also need to make sure that your interview spot is free of distractions. So keep any animals out of the room. I don't know if you hear my dog outside right now. He is not in the room, and unfortunately, he is still barking outside. I did not anticipate that, but if you do have an animal that you think will be loud, will be barking, or you think there are any concerns, maybe you have technical difficulties, let the interview know ahead of time. That way, they're not thinking, oh my gosh, they left their dog in the room with them. You are saying, like, I'm so sorry, my dog is someplace else, but he barks and I did the best I could, or I'm so sorry, our internet isn't the best, so if we have connection issues, I really apologize. I hope we can find out a plan B. Just letting them know ahead of time. Pay attention to the interviewer, move your phone, close any other boxes, just be present. And then, obviously making eye contact. It's hard when you have a video, you see yourself. Try just putting a Post-it note over your video so you're not tempted to look at what you look like, or just cover your video completely. And then test your equipment. Make sure it works ahead of time. Ask somebody to test it with you, have good lighting. We don't need you to be completely washed out. We also don't need like this black room where we're not really sure where you're at. Just test the lighting. And then remember, you're on camera. We've all heard the horror stories of people bringing their computer into the bathroom and going. There was somebody on GMA a week ago, I think, that was not wearing pants and his camera angle was not angled right. So just remember you're on camera. Don't do anything weird. Just, I don't know if you have to put a Post-it note saying, like, you are on camera, but just remember that. And then once you're there and you're in the interview, again, this is not really any different from an in-person interview. You have to know the right questions to ask. And right now, with the pandemic, there are a lot of questions that you can ask that you might not have asked before. And these might be, you know, how is your company adapting? Will my start date be impacted? What can I expect from my work environment now? And on the flip side of that, this might be a time for employers to get to know you and to see what you did, how you handled the pandemic. So be prepared for them to ask questions of what you did with your time. So that could be, you know, what did you spend at your time at home? What have you learned about yourself? And if you just say like, oh, I just like spent my time eating marshmallows and watching Netflix, it doesn't look as good. We want you to really think about like these questions and have a response. It's an opportunity for you to sell yourself. It's an opportunity for you to really impress an employer. And then other things to consider, stay in contact. If it's somebody that you've accepted a job with, if it's somebody that you're interviewing with, reach out to them. You know, you're not going to bombard them with emails, but you do want to at least figure out, like, is there any update? Has anything changed? I know for us, just those first couple weeks in March, things fell between the cracks, and it was completely unintentional, but it was just a lot going on. And maybe we missed reaching out to a candidate that we had been in contact with. Contact them. Let them know, hey, I want to know if we're still on, if everything's still the same. Has anything changed with the onboarding process? Have they had to rescind offers? You want to know that now. It might be something like, oh, I don't want to ask, I don't want to know the answer, but you'd rather hear the answer now than a month from now. So make sure you are staying in contact. Again, being adaptable. Be adaptable with the interview process. We know you might have been excited. Our employees fly to our headquarters in Denver. They didn't, our two App State people who interviewed with us just recently didn't get to do that. We had their, I think, flights booked, like everything was ready to go for them to come to Denver, and we had to cancel it and adjust and do virtual. So be understanding of that. Be adaptable that your role might not look the same. You might have accepted one role, but that doesn't exist, or they can't do that remotely right now. So be flexible. And then knowing that we don't know what the end looks like. So one thing for us that we hear as employers is, when are you going to do this? When are you going to do that? We don't know. You know, we can't read that crystal ball. We don't know. Nobody knows. So just being understanding and adaptable with that. And then making yourself marketable right now. When I ask, what have you done during your time at home? If it's just eating marshmallows and watching Netflix, that's not impressive. But if you say, I've been watching a lot of webinars, I've been updating my LinkedIn profile, I've been connecting with people, I've been working on my technical skills, awesome, great use of your time, and a great way for you to stay active and busy right now. Get your resume ready, get your cover letter put together, figure out who your references are going to be. These are all things that you can do and should do. Now you're home and you have more time to do that. Additionally, more people are willing to help. You get more one-on-one contact. I know for us, I've done a lot of presentations like this and heard directly from students just saying, could you give me a little coaching on my resume? And I'm happy to do that. And that's normally not something that would even come up or I would have an opportunity to do. So take advantage of people being willing to help right now. And then staying positive and keep going. Starting a career search is tough. And starting a career search in a pandemic is really hard. I did it in 2007, 2009 when I graduated undergrad and grad school, and the economy was horrible. But there was no stay-at-home order. There was no pandemic going on. And so it is very different, and we know how hard it can be. And so here's a quote just about the rejection, and it can seem personal, and it's not by any means. You just have to continue to move forward, continue to stay optimistic. Another good reminder is I talked about how many people are willing to help. Be one of those people. Be one of those people who would pay it forward. Maybe you talk to a company that isn't a great fit for you, or you're not a great fit for them, but you have a friend that might be perfect. Send that opportunity along to them. Offer to help your friend prep for their interview. Review each other's resumes. help somebody with their coding skills. You know, maybe in a year from now, they get a job and they have an opening at their company that you're perfect for. Help, pay it forward, do kind things for people. Even if it's not relevant to the industry, that's another way that you can say, this is what I did with my time. I helped people. I took a leadership role. I made masks for people. I got involved. We like people in our company who help. We like people who care and give back. So think about paying it forward in any way that you can. And then make the most of the situation. Some people are going to come out of this situation better than others. I talked about earlier, some industries are probably doing better now than they were before. You can be that person too. Don't just sit back and let things happen around you. Take advantage of it. Start building your brand on LinkedIn and social media. I mentioned paying it forward. Start to help out. You've always been interested in getting your GitHub account put together and sharing your projects on that. Take this time to do it. I think more and more people are online, are connecting virtually. So try to make a brand for yourself. Try to really brush up your skills and get noticed that way. You don't have to kind of be the one that just sits there and says, oh, poor me, this is awful. It's awful for all of us. You can make the most of the situation. And then as far as FAST goes, we are on all these social media handles, LinkedIn, Glassdoor. I highly encourage that you do check out our website, that you check out some of our social media. We're doing a Fasties Connected Challenge right now. And each week we are challenging Fasties to something different. So last week we challenged Fasties to post pictures of them in their fast gear to go on our social media. This week we are challenging Fasties to share with us new hobbies or records or things that they're doing to occupy their time. And right now we're seeing that people are getting caught up on projects, hanging shelves. Some people are gardening. Some people have taken advantage of keeping their houseplants alive, connecting with family. So I don't remember what the next 2 weeks are, but we're basically challenging people. So you can see some of those on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and just see what we're doing to support our employees and what we're doing to get through this together. So that's what I have. I know it went a little long. There's just so much information and I always get distracted. So
Sarah, that was really awesome. That was great. A couple of things that really stood out to me, your comments about networking, and that people right now do have a little bit more time. And I think people really want to connect, and I think that's related to the how can you help someone else, because for me, I just know individually, I feel there's certain times where I feel really helpless. So being able to connect with especially students, and Leo was on earlier and I'm like, oh great, we have all kinds of opportunities for you, or when we have these opportunities to connect with students. And Sierra, we're really glad you're here, because we are feeling a little isolated ourselves. I think we have an even greater need to want to help students and help figure out how they can connect with others too. So I love that. And I have thought the question that will be for this class of 2020 and the class of 2021 and so on for several years is going to be, basically, how did the pandemic impact you? What did you learn about yourself during that time, and what did you do during that time? So anyway, so let me be quiet. Folks that we have on with us, I know Sarah had said if you have any questions to put those in the chat box, and maybe Sarah, you could talk just briefly a little bit about what specific opportunities you all do have at FAST, what areas you would be recruiting for right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So Sarah, Lee, if you do have questions, like I said, feel free to put them in the chat or just unmute yourself. Lee, I don't think you can, but so put your question there. Sarah, if you can unmute yourself, let me know. As far as opportunities at FAST go, we have primarily what we hire for is our implementation consultant position. And that is a mix between the consultant role and the developer role. So we're basically hiring consultants who know how to code, or coders who know how to consult and work really well with clients. We're not looking for just kind of nose down coders who sit in a room and code all day long. We're looking for problem solvers. We're looking for people who have the aptitude to pick up those technical skills. We do hire from really all majors across the board. At App State in particular, I think we've had the most luck so far with computer science and the master's physics program, but we're starting to get involved more in math. And then we have a technical writer as well for when that position was open. But we want people who are interested in helping government agencies run more efficiently, in helping to solve those problems, in who are really interested in taking on a challenge, because a lot of times we're replacing very old systems, and the the rules aren't the same. When you're talking about a system they were using in the 80s to what we're using now, so much has changed. So the process has changed, and we can do everything differently now. So at the end of the day, we look for people who are problem solvers, who are smart, who can communicate really well with other employers. I don't think, Sierra Leone, you have the programming background. So we also have a role that's called training coordinator. And they are more of a train the trainer role. They work at our government locations, just like our technical roles do. And they are working with the government trainer, who then goes out and trains all the end users of the system. So they're more so curriculum design, putting this together and working with the government trainers to figure out the training plan, rather than doing the training. And then we get a lot too that people think it's corporate training and HR training, and that's it's more train the trainer within the government side. And for that, we look for educational background, instructional design background, business background, just really anybody who has that aptitude to have a lot of patience, because training, teaching, especially within a government agency where they've been using the same system for 10, 20, 30, 40 years is stressful and trying. And so having a lot of that patience and just understanding of how people think, how people learn best.
Great. Well, sort of a follow-up to that, we've done a couple of workshops to walk people through applying for unemployment here in North Carolina, and have actually gone through the process with someone who lives in my home who was a student, and I don't think that system has been updated. It asks if you're a longshoreman. I'm like, that's like from the 70s. It's like they've just added on. So I'm hopeful that maybe North Carolina might contract with y'all to redo our system.
Right, I know that, and the DMV system.
That's true. So Deanne had a question, and she wanted to know if a student connects with someone or has an interview or anyone, how poor in taste is it to do electronic email thank yous right now, given the fact that we don't even know if people are, I haven't picked up our mail in our office in like 6 weeks. Somebody's doing it, but we're not getting it.
Yeah, I think Laura and I actually covered this on the last meetup last week, I think it was. And I actually prefer an email thank you over a handwritten card any day, even before this, because handwritten notes, while very nice and kind and thoughtful and, outgoing really as far as they're concerned, are great, they take too long. And I may have already made my mind up on somebody before I even get that letter. And then a lot of times students don't know. I work from home all the time. So students obviously do not know my home address, and they're sending it to our office. So by the time the office gets it and then they get it to me, we've probably already contacted them to let them know if we're moving forward or not moving forward. So I'm always a fan of, just for efficiency purposes, that email. Still, don't copy and paste. It shouldn't just be generic. You still have to say the same things, but send that email, and I have no problem with it whatsoever. If things go back to normal, by all means, feel free to send that email and then handwrite a note and do both. But I always encourage people to do the email within 24 hours, so you don't get left behind, so they haven't maybe made up their mind yet, and that can help sway them one way or the other.
Great. Well, do we have anything else? Or this has been really great and very affirming with other information that we've been sharing, to hear it reiterated by you as an employer. So,
Absolutely. I'm going to put my email address in the chat. Leah, Sierra, if you have any questions, if you would like to reach out for a resume to be reviewed or any questions, feel free to just send me an email and let me know. I'm happy to answer anything.
okay, great. And Sarah, I did record it, and we'll put it on our website. We have a place where we've been putting our career meetups that we've recorded, and we'll put it out there.
Okay, perfect.
Great.
Thank you
So
guys
thank
so much for
you.
your time. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thanks for joining us. We are working on our summer schedule. So students who are still here starting the week of summer school, which I think is May 26th, we'll be doing career meetups on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 2 o'clock. And Wednesdays are going to be a focus on, I think Wednesdays, I can't remember if we formally decided, one of the days will be a focus on employer engagement. So we'll be back in touch and have you come back and join us.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Yeah, thank you as well. And Sierra and Leah, good luck wrapping everything up. Here at the end of the semester, I hope that you're completely done with your exams, and it looks like you're both going to be graduating here in like just a couple of days. So congratulations.
Very exciting.
All right. Thanks so much, Sarah.
All right, thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.